Well, good evening, friends. This is Bob Guns from Kampala, Uganda, bringing you the Concerned Forum. And as I have come accustomed to doing, I have my boy Billy Joel in the background to make me feel at home. That's New York City home. Yeah, so what are we talking about tonight? Well, here goes a very interesting question. Now, the head honcho at the Bureau of Labor Statistics put out some numbers about the economy, about the labor force, and truth to tell, it really sucks. Now, this is an example of the big baby that we have sitting in the White House. Because instead of him saying, "Well, damn, it takes time for my things to work. Um, we're gonna have to put more effort into something like that, right?" But no, what does Big Baby do? Big Baby fires this woman. Now, it's my understanding she's been in that job for about what 20 years. She's a professional civil servant. That's her job. That's her gig. No matter who is president, her job is to crunch the numbers. So, my question number one: how can anyone in their right mind trust any kind of numbers that Trump gives us? Again, because he's already proven that if he does like the truth, that he's gonna fire the truth. Now, how you fire truth, that's beyond me. But I hope that all those uninformed and misinformed people that supported Trump in the first place, this is what you got. This is what you have given the nation for president. If a foreign leader sends a tweet that hurts his feelings, he sends two Ohio class nuclear submarines to sit off their coastline. And when somebody tells him that, listen, this economic BS that you were throwing around, it ain't working, boss. And what does he do? He fires the messenger. Okay, that's like something out of ancient time, right? You didn't like the message, so you killed the messenger. And my second question, I don't hear. Now, I'll give him credit. I'm going to give him hell about something else in a little while. But for this, I'll give him credit. What's his name? Senator Booker out there in New Jersey. He raised that same question. Now, I'm just wondering, why are not all of the Democrats in the House and in the Senate running down the halls of Washington with their hair on fire? Because it's serious stuff. The American people cannot trust this guy. How are you going to trust somebody that he gets bad news, so he fires the person that brings him the news? I mean, we are right now. We are in real asshole city as a nation. Okay, and I think it's time that people grow up and realize that. Another point I want to talk about. Um, I think that one of the big problems we're going to have a Tea Party movement in the Democratic Party, and I say this as I'm straight up with you. I am a registered Democrat. I am a member of DSA, and I am progressive, and I am extremely woke. And I say here and now, we are going to need a Tea Party movement within the Democratic Party. And we need to do it this year before the election comes up next year for House seats, quite frankly. I'm sorry to say that we, well, not we, me, myself. I'm over here on business in Uganda trying to set up something. But I'm a New Yorker. I'm a registered voter in New York. I live in the, now you figure this one out. I live in the poorest district in the nation. I live in the poorest congressional district in the nation, in the Bronx. Now, I don't I have a hard time understanding that. And my congressperson happens to be Richie Torres. And I got shaken up about 3 days ago when I found out that Richie was getting, I think, like close to $1 million in contributions from AIPAC. Now, I know that a lot of elected officials they don't like to be called I don't know, bought. Okay, you know the expression, "We got the best Congress people that money can buy." You know. Well, listen, I know it hurts many of them. It hurts their feelings, but I really don't give a damn. I don't get it. If AIPAC can give you almost $1 million, why are they doing that? Now I know Congressman Ritchie is a very handsome young man. Yeah, I mean, I would not want to do a double date with him because I'm sure all the ladies would probably flock to him. But I don't think that he's worth almost $1 million. Perhaps his votes in Congress might be. And see, that's what bothers me. Because as an American, I don't believe that my country should be sponsoring genocide, to be frank about it. I am well aware of the travails that European Jewish people have gone through over the last 85 years. I don't think it's fair to take the problems of Western Europe and dump them in the so-called Middle East, because that's basically what happened. I believe that that land, two things. Either it should be shared or they should have a two-state solution. But as an American, that, hey man, freedom's supposed to be in my DNA, right? As well as justice. And what we have in Gaza right now is an example of injustice to the highest degree. And people want to talk about what happened October 7th. Well, apparently this thing has been going on since the turn of the 20th century. Since what was his name? Theodore Herzl came up with the idea of a Jewish homeland. And I think that what people need to do, they need to study the whole question of how this whole so-called Israeli-Palestinian thing came about in the first place. Because up until about the middle of the 20th century, uh, Jews found refuge in Arab slash Muslim states. So we need to sit down and figure out, well, wow, what changed all that? Number one. Number two, this business about, do you believe that the state of Israel has a right to exist? That's a dumb question to me. I I know in the Navy they said there's no such thing as a dumb question. Uh, I slightly disagree with that. That's like saying, does the United States have a right to exist? Well, we do, in fact, exist. All right. Now, how did we come about our existence? Uh, Committing genocide on the indigenous people, building up the wealth of the country with chattel slavery. That happened. Okay. Uh, and some people don't like to talk about it, but that's real. That's what happened. But does America have a right to exist? Well, that's not a question to me because America does exist. That's the same thing about Israel. Israel does exist. The question that we have about Israel is, are all of the residents of that area being treated with justice and fairness? Number one. And number two, if they're not, if you have one group of people that are constantly being victimized and having their land taken, uh, why do I want to be a part of that? Me, as an American, why do I want to be a part of that? I spent 26 years in the military. Why do I want to see my sons and relatives and friends constantly fighting never-ending wars in the Middle East? No, I don't believe that's the American way. And it has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. I think I have made my position on anti-Semitism quite clear. I have personally myself sacrificed fighting against the anti-Semitic people, right? So I just felt that that's something that needed to be brought out. The reason being because let me link this to something now, because Senator Booker, he was asked about supporting Mr. Mandami. Now, I think in the end, he said something to me that I think was probably the most intelligent thing that he could have said at that particular time. And that is that, well, look, when he was first asked that question, he was like a lot of Democrats, like Shapiro and Fetterman in Pennsylvania, and a few other people. And, my advice to them is listen, pal, better get used to it. Because just like the Republican Party, and they're proud to say, this is not your dad's Republican Party. Well, guess what? This ain't your dad's Democratic Party either. Okay. Now, I respect Senator Booker, right? I've even had the pleasure of speaking with him one time on the phone. I actually called his office. Oh, this was a couple of years back. And he answered the damn phone. I was surprised. And I think that he's a good man. I think that he's a good senator. I just happen to disagree with his feelings about Assemblyman Mondami. Okay. And as I was getting ready to say before, if I'm not mistaken, he ended that uh, conversation by saying that, I'm the senator from New Jersey, and, we're going to take care of our elections here in Jersey. And New York is going to take care of their elections in New York. And hey, I'm not saying that you have to, just because somebody's running on the Democratic ticket, that you have to love them, and proclaim everlasting allegiance. All I'm saying is have respect for the voters of New York City that won him the primary. And, the problem that you have with the other candidates, number one, Cuomo, I think that especially among younger people, they find it too hard to tell the difference between him and the Republicans, uh, which is unfortunate. Okay, but hey, he was in the governor's seat for 4 years. Um, he had a chance to basically draw his own picture of what he was about, and he didn't. He either didn't or couldn't do it. So the people rejected him. The majority of the people rejected him. Uh, the other guy running as a Republican, what was it? The Rangers, running through going through the subways, supposedly crime fighters. That guy, right? Listen, I appreciate the exploits of when he ran through the subways, um, fighting crime and what have you. But frankly, that was another day, that was another time, and I think that this is a whole different bag, a whole different time, and I don't think that people want to go for that anymore. Yeah, here we go, Republican candidate. See, okay, because he said something. Um, what the hell? He made some kind of comment that really, because I can remember that. What the hell did he say? Something to the effect that Mr. Mondami wanted to send all the cops home or some kind of nonsense like that. And that was never the case. Number one, number two, Sliwa should know better than that. Quite frankly, um, we definitely need a new model of policing in American cities, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Okay, I mean, I have to walk the streets. I have family. I have friends in New York City. I, you know, I'm concerned about their safety. Okay. Uh, I'm also concerned about the fact that sometimes you have police people who maybe they will be better off in a different line of work. And uh, I say that remembering that when I was like 15 or 16, there was a big Irish cop named Joe. Um, I had walked out of the Catholic school at the end of my sophomore year, and I started going to public school down at Seward Park. And let's just say that I never knew his name, but you could see he was a big Irish guy and had fists like hams. And he did me a solid, really. He helped put me on the right direction, and I'll never forget him for that. You know, as far as I'm concerned, the man should have became police commissioner. He was a great guy. So there's no, anti-police here. Okay, but you, when you have a system, okay, that can only go in one direction, I don't think that's good for anyone. I don't think that's good for the public safety. I don't think it's good. Uh, I don't think it's good overall for the community. And I believe that that's what Assemblyman Mondani is saying. You know, there are times when you need a cop and you need a mental health person there. Okay, uh, it's not all. It shouldn't be all about bang bang shoot 'em up. Okay, or just jam low income males. Just jam them up in jail like sardines. That doesn't help. Okay, that's what they did in the '80s, and the community truly suffered for it. And we're trying to avoid that. So I don't know. I would like to ask the people, like those clowns on Fox Network. Did I call them clowns? Yeah, I call them clowns. Like those clowns on Fox Network. With a couple of exceptions. I'd like to ask them, do you want your mother raped? Or your daughter? Or your sister? Or next time you're leaving the studio? Do you want somebody to run by you and smash you in the face with a pipe and grab your wallet? No, I don't think you do. So this is what really angers me. If you think that that is something that is so hellifying, so horrifying. Why do you think I want that? Okay, now I come on kind of strong when I ask you, would you want to see your mother or your daughter or your sister, be sexually abused in the middle of the street? Yeah, and I meant it to be like that because see, the things that you say about people, progressive people, how makes you think that I want to see that happen to any friend or any kinfolk of mine? Hmm? So this business about, oh, well, he just wants to send all the cops home and let the criminals run the street. I think that's a very stupid, unfeeling, unthinking thing to say about anyone. Okay? In reality, I would want to see anything like that happen to you or yours. So what the hell makes you think I want to see it happen to mine? We are all aware that crime exists. Black, white, yellow, red, brown. Okay. The question is, how do we as a society handle that? I mean, I hear all this stuff about being a cop. Yeah, it's a tough, being a cop is a tough job. Okay. I did a stint as a military police officer in my Army Reserve career after I left after I left active duty with the Navy. Okay. So yeah, being a cop is a tough job. But guess what? In most cases, that cop, he has to patrol there. Okay. Me and mine have to live there. Okay. I mean, people forget this shit. Uh, well, our brave police officer, blah, 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 blah. Well, listen, if you are given such accolades for a guy doing this job, what do you think about the people that live in that given area? It doesn't make more sense that the community and the police officers try to work out and reach some kind of modus vivendi. I don't know. People become conservative, they get stupid a lot of times. Anyway, no, Assemblyman Madami is fully in favor of making sure that we have adequate force to protect the people in the community. Okay, all this hyperbolic crap from Fox News, people like Fox News. Well, you take it for what it is, bullshit. Which is most of the things you find on Fox News is that bullshit, right? Um, that outfit, was it Murdoch? Yeah, the Murdochs, they have a habit of doing all they can to split people up. I guess what that's why they work so well with Donald Trump. Because they love to bring about division. Kind of like what Murdoch's dad did during World War II down in Australia when he incited the Australians to attack American soldiers that were there primarily to help them, right? You need to look that one up also, right? The Murdoch family, their journalistic history, okay, of what they were doing both before and during World War II, the type of stuff that they were writing, right? Anything for them, anything to fan the flames is good. That's what Fox is all about. And, you know, uh, sometimes I get so heartsick at what I see about the politics, what's evolved to here in the United States. And I think that looking at it from the Democratic Party side of the fence, um, Hochul, our governor there in New York, I think she's finally starting to understand that this is a war that we're in. This is not just politics. Donald Trump and his new MAGA Republican Party have declared war on our democracy. And just like Governor California, you said a little while ago, it's all nice and well to talk about playing by the rules. But when the opposition wants to get nasty, you have to fight fire with fire. And see, I think the problem that you see with the Democratic Party is that the base, for some odd reason, they already knew it, okay? That this is war. And the elected Democrats, a lot of them, they had just, it's finally started to sink in. Hey, these guys ain't playing. You know, they're trying to kill us, okay? Trump talks about arresting Obama. So you want to arrest the first black president that's probably one of the most, if not the most popular politicians right now in the United States. You know, he's up there with Ocasio, he's up there with Bernie. Uh, I mean, he's there. And the governor of California, Newsom, right? And you want to arrest this guy for treason. You have never bothered to say specifically what treasonous acts is he guilty of. See, and these people are not playing. Okay, they know now, especially they know now that they are in the minority, and they are, you know, they want to keep that grip on power, and that's all it's about. It has nothing to do with constitutional norms or any of the other stuff. And we have to understand that we have to be prepared to fight these people. And I hate to say it because I don't believe in violence. But let's take a look at what's happened with your right wing. Look how many times Trump has threatened elected officials, has threatened judges, has threatened news commentators, has threatened universities. This ain't no game, folks. This is real. This is about as real as it gets. And elected Democrats, I mean, I'm very leery of people like Fetterman, for example. Seriously, I wonder where his true allegiance lies. And, them people of that sort. See, I'm not one of those big tent people. Okay, let me make this plain. I would not welcome American Nazis into the Democratic tent. I'm sorry. I just won't do it. Now, Republicans, yeah, because as you've seen with the Republican Party, they'll take any kind of trash, right? Um, Christian nationalists, yeah, I include them in the trash also. Yes, okay. Any bigot, any homophobe, any anti-Semite, right? And they're so hypocritical, okay? Because I've always thought that one of the biggest anti-Semites in this country was Donald Trump. I mean, he's the one that invited those anti-Semites to the White House, not Biden, not Obama. He did. And then he wants to turn it around and attack college university presidents for allowing anti-Semitism. You know, I think that is, that's really wild. And who does he get? Was it some kind of youth sports fitness? Who does he get to head it? A convicted child molester. Was it Lawrence Taylor? I mean, come on, man. Character, people. Character. No human being in this world is perfect. Okay? But when you find people hanging around with the same crowd, uh, saying and doing the same type of thing over and over again, I mean, the line has to be drawn somewhere, folks. That's why, again, you Trump people out there, I mean, I'm just curious. What do you tell your kids about character, about doing the right thing, about obeying the law? And then when your kids are like 19, 20, 21, and they kind of avoid you somewhat because they realize, hey, I grew up with a goddamn hypocrite. You know, oh man, America, America. And, we have these, in the black community, we have these people, I call them Sambo. Now, someone would ask, well, how come you're supposed to call them Uncle Tom? Well, that's another example of how things get twisted in this country. Now, Uncle Tom, his biggest sin was his naivete. Okay, he was too nice, and that was his problem. The real bastard, the real no good SOB was Sambo. Simon Legree, because he was the overseer, and his assistant, his black assistant, Sambo, okay, who was the one that, hey, I heard that you got two gals down there that they're trying to escape and head to free territory. Miss Master Legree, that's a Sambo, okay? And we have those. The Republicans, every time they want to, well, we know that we're racist, but we want to try and show the rest of the world that we're nice guys. So they pick some simple-minded black, some simple-minded darky, right? Who I would call Sambo, like that boy that's running for governor in Florida, or like that shoeshine boy of a senator out of South Carolina. And you got a few up, you got a few others spread around the country. Uh, you got that FBI director. Now he's not African American, but he would. As dark as he is, you can see he ain't come over on the Mayflower, and he wouldn't be in this country if it was for Martin Luther King. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Uh, People from Asia, right? It was King that brought attention to the fact that the immigration laws were so racist. See, and you'll find that most immigrants from Asia, especially Southwest Asia, they got here usually that their parents did, usually around beginning to mid 60s, right? Because that's the time when King and the modern civil rights movement brought that point out. See? Funny how things work, isn't it? But this kid, what's his name? Stephen Smith. That's the guy, the loudmouth guy. I guess that's his claim to fame on the ESPN, talking about sports. He could sit in the studio in New York and you could hear him in South Jersey, right? That's cool. That's cool. But this guy for him I guess he calls himself dipping in politics, or someone that's coaxed him to be, political. I can't understand why these guys want to allow themselves to be sambos for the Republican Party. I give an example. Apparently, Michelle Obama made some comment about Trump, and here goes Stephen Smith being a loyal little darky. Oh, well, she shouldn't have said anything like that about the president. Now, why are you going to defend a man that in his time, and I take it personally, being a disabled veteran, this is a guy that says, he goes to a national cemetery, dead vets laying buried all around him, and he says, damn, I can't figure out why they would do it. That's your president. And then he says, oh, well, these guys talking about the dead and the disabled, like myself, says we were suckers, right? That, Brother Smith, is that who you are defending? Huh? You were worried about his feelings getting hurt? This is the same guy that stood up and ridiculed a handicapped writer, right? He mocked the man, right? Remember what he did? He did that little. Oh, what was that? For his first election? uh, his first candidacy. I don't get that. And oh, and me and the most notorious trafficker of underage girls in American history. Yeah, we were great buddies. Even had the same taste in liking beautiful women, although he liked his on the young side. Uh-huh. And the woman that got 20 years for being a stirrer for this sex trafficker, when she said something like, oh, well, yeah, she's a great gal. I wish her luck. And this is the guy whose good name you want to defend? The guy that said that the first black president was not an American? Yeah, yeah. Okay, times have truly changed. That's right. Maybe I am getting old. Okay, but I know coon dancing darkies when I see and hear them. Okay, and my opinion of any black person that would have two good words to say about Donald Trump. Let me put it this way, because I don't really, I'm not trying to get into personalities, but I am calling a spade, pardon the pun. Let's just say that if you're one of those type of people, you really need to go somewhere and have a long talk with yourself, and then you could take a hike over to the Capitol in D.C. and then go to the Pentagon and talk to that Secretary of Defense there. What's his name? Pete Hegseth, the former Fox buffoon, and ask him why is it so urgent for him to tear down all the statues and pictures of black war heroes from the revolution that gave their blood for this country. Why is it so necessary to put up the statues of Southern traitors? Okay, because I mean, some of them were damn fine soldiers, but they betrayed the United States of America. They betrayed their oath, and you change stuff from name after great women and great men, men of color, and you say no, we're going to put up this guy, this slaveholder that spit on his oath for the Constitution and waged war against the United States. And no, it doesn't have nothing to do with Washington or Jefferson, who were slaveholders. No, 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 no. Don't try and come around with that one. Because the people in 1860, they actually destroyed the attempted to destroy the United States because they wanted to keep their slaves. Okay? See, a lot of these boys, they need to sit down and read a history book. Okay? Seriously, before they allow the Republican Party to make them look foolish going out there. Like that guy was named Brian Donaldson, and oh, what's his name? Scott there in South Carolina. They made a bloody ass out of that man, and it's a disgrace. It really is. Look, the Republican Party gave itself over to racism, sexism openly. As a matter of fact, they're trying to bring it. They're trying to bring it back in style. See, because come the '70s, it wasn't stylish to be an open bigot unless you lived in one of those so-called red states. But Trump uh, and his team of thugs said, "Yeah, it's okay. Don't be politically correct. Just be an asshole. Let's use the N-word, just like on Fox, right? What's his name? Gutman, Gutfeld, whatever freak his name is." Yeah, they're calling us the N-word, Nazi. We should be proud of that, right? And I'm just wondering, how many lives did we lose fighting Germany in World War II, fighting the Nazis? Shit. So that's Democrats. It's time to take off some of the weight and get back in fighting Trump because this is a fight. And I believe what the governors and mayors of states and cities need to do, I got to do some more research because I have this bad habit, folks. I don't like to shoot my mouth off about things that I'm not informed about. So I want to do a little more study on this. But the idea of these jackbooted stormtroopers, we call them ICE, could march into communities and just snatch people without warrants. And I believe that what the mayors of these cities need to do, and with the support of the governors, they need to start keeping an eye. They need to start sending state people. When they see ICE, there needs to be state inspectors out there also. Okay. And anytime they see somebody getting ready to be snatched by ICE, they need to step up and say, do you have a warrant for this person? And if they don't have a warrant, there should be at least two inspectors, right? One with a camera taking the picture of that ICE person, not touching him. Don't lay hands on him. Don't give him no excuse, but taking their picture and also getting their name. Because I do believe that the governor and the mayors of cities do have a right to require federal officials doing their business. They do have a right to check. It said, let me see your credentials. And every time they stick their face into a community, those state people or city people need to be there and need to be taking names and taking pictures. Because ICE needs to realize what's the old expression? Every dog has its day. There will come a time when they will be held accountable for their actions. And that bullshit about, hey, I'm following orders, didn't stop them boys from getting their neck stretched at Nuremberg. And there will be an accountability held in this country. That's if the American people don't get woke, continue to stay asleep, and we just lose the democracy. Totally. I mean, it's not doing all that hot right now, but we still have a piece of it. Now, the question is, are we going to be able not only to maintain that, but to expand our democracy? I mean, I thought that's what American democracy was supposed to be about. But that's what needs to be happen. Absolutely, that's what needs to happen. And we need to put these Trump people on notice that they will be held accountable. Also, some of these judges, no, you don't harass or threaten judges because they don't vote your way. But when you have something that's clearly defined in the Constitution, and you have a judge that continually rules against what's written down in the Constitution, yeah, I think it's time for the impeachment of said judge. Quite frankly, listen, the law is not made for was not made for lawyers. Okay, it was made for all of us, right? That's why it's written down. Because when it's not written down, then some tyrant or some dictator can step and say, oh, well, I think the law, I didn't like what you did, so I'm going to make a law against you, right? That's one of the reasons why. I mean, coming down from the Code of Hammurabi all the way down to the American Constitution. That's why you have written law. And I'm also pretty upset with judges because they allowed this guy Trump to sit up there and make threats against them, against their families, and nothing happens. Sometimes I really wonder just how deep that whole Epstein thing really goes. Because I've seen too many politicians on both sides of the fence, judges, administrative people, right, in government, allowing all kinds of weird shit to happen. And it would seem like, well, damn, we talk about Putin having something hanging over Trump's head. I'm wondering, here in America, these things I've been hearing about Epstein blackmailing people. I'm curious, just how deep does it go? Now we know we have a problem with Congress because of the fact uh, it's what donor arama. That's some kind of quiz game. How much money did the donor give you? It's a terrible way to run any kind of government. But it's really terrible when you try to run a democracy like that because the people don't get hurt. And I'm tired of this bullshit about, oh, well, just because I get campaign contributions from this firm or that person, it doesn't mean anything. Bullshit. Bullshit. Just like I said about up in the Bronx. You think these people give you millions of dollars because you're good looking? I mean, come on. This time around, we're going to have to save our democracy and make it better. Otherwise, what? Otherwise, why bother? Seriously, why bother? Hmm? You say, I'm worried about my family, my kids. Well, what the hell kind of country are you going to leave for your family and friends and kids to grow up in? Seriously, you think that this shit just happens? You think that freedom just pops out of the sky and flutters into my hand like a little delicate feather? No, man. It's a rough game. And every so often, you have people, right? 1860 was the time. The Gilded Age was another time. The 60s was another time with the civil rights. But you always got scumbags who are trying to suppress the freedom of other people within the democracy. Just like that guy that Trump is trying to make the super judge, lifetime appointment. And this is the guy that says, telling his assistants, hey, the judge gives you an order, say, fuck the judge, right? Now, this is a guy, he went to, I can, you can see the man, obviously he went to good colleges, probably Ivy League, went to law school, right? Probably did quite well. And yet he gets into a position, and what did he do? He tells his subordinates, if a judge, right? If a federal judge tells you to do something, you just say, fuck the judge and do what I want you to do. All right? See, this is what we're facing. And I tell you, I'm also very disenchanted with organizations, which I am a member of, like the NAACP, right? People are getting snatched off the streets. Where the hell is the NAACP? And I don't want to hear this bullshit about, oh, well, they work behind. I'm looking at stuff here from RS popping up on my corner of my computer here. CNN says they're not comprehending Attorney General Pam Bondi's order to convene a grand jury to investigate Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard's claim that former president, I'm quite sure they're talking about, can't be either Biden or Obama, right? Now, this guy, right, he spent the last 10 years spreading conspiracy theories, right? Talking about child molestation and all this other stuff. Comes to find out that he was a pimp, right? What did Trump say? Said, yeah, Epstein stole one of my girls. That's something that a Mac in the I'm from the city. Okay, I know the Mac is. The Mac is a pimp, right? If you take a girl out of a Mac's stable, that's how they react. Oh, that's so and so. He stole one of my girls. That's what Trump said. Now, you Trump lovers out there, don't get mad at me because you helped to put a guy in the White House that sounds like a Mac. That's not my fault. You did that. Okay, Democrats didn't do that. You did that. And I just wonder, do you ever take a look in the mirror and realize just how dumb you were? Seriously. I mean, this is no game. This ain't funny. This is our country here. And you put our country, the full faith and credit of everything that the United States of America, everything that good men and women of all colors gave their lives for, bled for, gave up everything. And you took all of that and you crumpled it up like a piece of paper and you just threw it in the garbage. Yeah, that's what you did. I had to stop there for a few minutes because at night, when I'm sitting up here and I'm on the computer and I'm thinking about home and having a beautiful, nice slice of pepperoni pizza, and I think about home, I don't think about New York. Don't get me wrong, I love it here. Got a nice lady, good food, but it's not my food, if you know what I mean. I mean, hey, I'm a New Yorker, you know? I was practically born on the subway. My mom and my dad, they got to the hospital just in time, you know. But everything that I'm about comes out of Harlem, right? That's good. That's right after Grand Projects, Harlem, St. Thomas the Apostle on 118th Street, LaSalle Academy, Roman Catholic High School, Seward Park High School, City College, City University. That's my America, right? We all have this thing of America. For some people, they call it the heartland. You know, some people it's Chi-town, some people it's Boston, right? But New York is mine, and to see my country in the hands of a person of such low character, and it's like that actor, what's his name, Jeff Daniels. It's like he said, how could you not know that this would happen? How could you not know? Yeah. And it's just like I was saying earlier about the Sambos. No, I ain't taking it back on it, right? I mean, people like Bill Maher, progressive all those years, and then, and all of a sudden he says, it's woke people. And I'm still waiting to get a definition of woke, okay? Because I'm not going to walk through the world asleep banging into walls because I can't see where I'm going because I'm asleep. So yeah, I'm woke, Bill. You used to be woke. I don't know what the hell happened to you. Frankly, this subject is so important. I really don't give a damn, you know, what happened to you because nothing that happened to you is worth. Um, because I understand you had dinner with Trump. That's like having, you're half Irish and half Jewish. So you said. So I would ask you, how would you enjoy having a dinner with Adolf Hitler? And if you don't see where I'm coming from with that, then maybe that's the problem. Because I basically equate both of them the same. Okay. Now you could say Hitler and then Hitler light. Okay. But yeah, you sat down and broke bread with that person. I think that's sad. I really do. I think someone like Stephen Smith, who decides that he wants to just bust into politics, not knowing what the hell he's talking about. I think that's real sad. Now it's funny, that boy. He can talk about, oh well, Michelle should not have said what she said about Donald. Tell me something. There was a black man, a young black man, that was basically dragged out of his car and beaten for no reason. And fortunately, we got the whole thing on film, so that's going to go all around the world. So I would caution Trump. Okay. Next time you want to send somebody over to Africa, trying to see about, basically trying to make them knuckle under for these stupid trade treaties. You better make sure that video hasn't already reached over here to the African continent. Okay, and that's something else that really pisses me off. You want to come to Africa because it's the most resource plenty continent on the planet, but you have no respect for the black people who live on this continent. And then you have the nerve and the audacity to try and, have a treaty with it. It is not like I expect every African nation to, yes, we must go to America for our black American brothers. No, no, every nation, as we have learned dealing with the right wing government in Israel, right? Every nation, they have their own interests. But people aren't stupid, you know. Because they look in the mirror and they see a black man looking back at them. And then they know that you, Mr. Trump, you happen to think that black folks were about a quarter of an inch above the gorilla. You refer to this whole continent as a shithole place. So what are people supposed to think? Just think about that. And Mr. Smith, it's interesting. You are so ready to go to war over Donald Trump's good name. I haven't heard you say anything about that brother that was. Luckily, he wasn't killed in that incident in Florida. Oh, and by the way, that incident happened to take place in Jacksonville, Florida. Right? Jacksonville. That's the reason I left the Navy when I did, because unfortunately, the last unit that I was in, it could not have existed in any other naval base except in Jacksonville, Florida. Okay? Or I should say, existed in any other state except for Florida. And Jacksonville is the armpit of the United States, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to treating people with dignity and respect. Believe it or not, that goes for white folks, Latino folks, and black folks. But that's a whole different story. So I would suggest, Mr. Smith, that the next time that you want to jump on somebody for talking badly about apparently your hero, Donald Trump, I suggest that you think first, research more, and then maybe you should open your mouth. People, Mondani for mayor. God bless. See you next time. This is Bob Gomes of the Concerned Forum. Take care of each other. Peace.